Let's do it. Fire away, brother.
Let's launch.
Sweet. All right, I'll press go live on YouTube, and then we'll do the usual couple of seconds of dead air space, and then we'll get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics AFLW Fantasy Round Review. We're recording live on Twitter and YouTube on Sunday, the 15th of October, at the completion of round 7 of the AFLW Fantasy season. I'm your host and AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Bales, and you can find me on Twitter at BalesDT. As always, if there is a player that you'd like discussed or a question you'd like answered, tweet us on the spaces below or comment if you're watching on the YouTube live. So joining me as always is the co-host this space and a legend of a bloke, and you'll know him from GameDay Squad. Is Tom, mate. Tom, how are you?
Thank you for the introduction, mate. That was magnificent. But I'm going great, mate. Ready to talk footy. Of course, had to miss last week. A couple of different things popped up. So I've had a lot on my mind, mate. It's been, basking in my brain, and I just can't wait to rip back in. And welcome Liam back. Thanks for hopping on as well,
we got
brother.
a special guest.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, no, Liam from the Free Kick Pod, mate. How was your weekend of footy? Did you get down to any games at all?
Yeah, it was actually a couple of games for me. I got down to Dreamtime at Icon Park last night to watch a delightful bit of footballing work from the Bombers, and then got down to Collingwood Carlton, also at Icon Park, in the just grim weather as well. But given it's only walking distance from my place, I'm really not one to complain that much.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, it's not too bad when you've got an oval where there's plenty of games going on throughout the season just down the road. So it's always very, very handy. But we'll start off with the guest, Liam, mate. How did you go in AFLW Fantasy this week, and what was your score, rank, and then plus and minus 3?
So score is 1583, which puts me at rank 339, kind of before we've had lockout lifts. Plus 3, it's got to go to Charlotte Thomas with 111. She had her hands on everything. She might have even actually led the game for possession.
and it was a last-minute change. I had Matty Prasparkas in.
How to improve. So over rank of 483. So considering I was outside of top 600 leading in, whereas Magic, I think 158 overall there with a score of 1326. Round rank of 48. And then in GameDay Squad, I'm just trying to get up. Not updated, but it says 16, but I'll drop a little bit with a few scores. So I'll probably 1,840. Plus and minus 3. Plus 3, I'm going to. I've got 2 that I'll probably want to say. Your teams in Melbourne back-to-back times. She's gone gone 98 and 99. So very good from her. But I think I'll give the plus 3 to who was the top scorer heading in today. Noffy, Ebony Marinoff. Again, the Crows glasses on. She's just incredible. Since round 2, she's only had one score below 124, which was the 91 with the Lucy single tag. But she just is essentially a walking 125 plus this season. She's gone to new levels, a lot more damaging than what she has been, averaging 130 for the year. Just incredible. Minus 3, I'm going to give it to Hannah Priest. 30 points. Liam, I messaged you on Friday, just sort of going through a cover option. I just said, I was like, I thought about trading Priest. I didn't really give it too much deep thought, but I thought going Priest down to Daisy Darcy to get that cash to make my moves, but I didn't do it, and I probably should have looked at it more with St Kilda losing a couple of defenders for an original side, so that was quite disappointing with only 30 points. Far out, but yeah. So
yeah, look, Priesty's definitely one that will be on the tip of everyone's tongue this week. I will say though, I know she was going to fall back into defence, and that might have signalled less midfield time. She's someone who has averaged as a top 5 defender or close to it as a defender in the past.
Yeah.
Playing full-time as a distributor. I think the bigger issue is that she literally didn't touch the ball. She had 4 touches. That was equal lowest on the ground. That is completely unexpected.
Red flag.
Yeah, no, at least she had the 4 tackles.
Red flag. But, it's a red flag for St Kilda as well. What on earth are you doing having your captain go from an inside CBA midfielder each week and your best player to touching the ball 4 times?
Which it's because
it speaks to a game plan that is just ill-formed or otherwise unexplained.
Well, so your favourite team and coach, Liam, there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I almost hate that they're winning because they didn't play particularly well. I would just argue that GWS are worse.
Yeah.
They have a worse game plan.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very good point there. But yeah, we'll get stuck into the games and go through a few players. As always, if you are tuning in, make sure you put in any players or questions you want to discuss, and we'll get to those once we get through these games. But it did start on Friday night for a game that I went to. Adelaide defeating the Bulldogs by 42 points with a fair few injuries in this game. There's plenty of players coming off with injury. And then I also made a bit of a cheeky TV appearance if anyone did see me on there, which was always nice. But plenty of score. Actually, before I go through the scores, just want to note, before I left, I did see Anne Hatchard getting she had ice on her ankle as she was walking out of the stadium. So she'll probably be fine, but just something to just maybe keep a note of in terms of if she's injured, listed on the injury report. But I think she'll be fine. But there was a bit of a hobble and a bit of ice, so just something to note. But in terms of scorers here, Ebony Marinoff, top scorer, 132. Not much to add. If you own her, fantastic VC or captain option every week. If you don't own her, you just got to try and get her in if you can afford her. And Hatchard, 106. So, well, Liam, with the sort of little nugget I dropped there with potential sort of bit of a niggle with her ankle, and Brisbane coming up this week, if people are looking for a midfield upgrade, is this probably the week not to get Hatchard in? Or do you think that she could, if she's playing, that she's still an option regardless of who she plays?
Oh, she'll definitely fall in the bucket of options that you've got, but I think having that Brisbane matchup this week is a flag for her as a target. Like we've seen at the moment with the way you can lose 150k in 1 week with one bad score, I'd say that there are going to be better options around her price this week as against Hatchard. Bad matchup with a potential ankle niggle.
Yeah, and then you never know. It'd be interesting to see who Cassie Svart goes to this week. I think last year she went to Noffy, and I think that would you probably put your money on a bit of preview for next week? Would you think that Spark will go to Marinoff this time as well?
Yeah, look, I see. Here's the thing, and we can talk about it when we talk about Brisbane. The more important target for them in the past few weeks actually been Bree Conan, who was doing a job at times on row bottom. So I really don't know what Starcevic is going to do this week. He's definitely not someone who's set in his ways. He's pretty innovative with who he looks to stop and the game plans that he runs. So, look, I would say it's almost 50-50 on who he's going to tag this week unless we hear more.
Yeah, definitely something to look at ahead of this week. Anyway, keep an ear out for if there's any little nuggets dropped by any of the coaches. Ellie Blackburn scored very well as well with a 93. And considering that, I think did she have a 0-point opening quarter, which was very, very surprising. Just Randall tagging her and the ball just really sort of going near Randall and Blackburn, but they didn't actually touch the ball because it kept either bouncing away or someone would come in and steal the ball. But 93 is a pretty good score from essentially 3/4 of footy, or very, very good score, actually. Neve Kelly, 85, was also solid again, and she's sort of a couple of down weeks, but again, good score this week. Brisbane upcoming. I don't know if I'll be looking at targeting her this week if you're looking for a forward, but she's been good regardless. A few people might have looked at Kirsty Lamb at 69, a bit of a quieter score there. West Coast this week, so if you did have her, you could hold for an extra week. Gabby Newton, 65. So, Tom, what did you make of Gabby Newton's game on the weekend? A bit of a buzz name in our forward lines. Game on the weekend, a bit of a buzz name. Tom, you there? Don't know what's I don't know what's happened, Liam. Can you hear me still?
Bales, Bales, I can hear you.
Yep.
And I wondered if it was my internet playing up again, but apparently not.
Yeah, no, it must be Tom's internet, I reckon. So we'll have to see. Maybe Tom might have to.
Look, I'm happy to speak to Gabby Newton, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, Tom just might have to maybe jump off and then jump back on. But yeah, Liam, mate, go ahead with Gabby Newton if you like.
Definitely. So she was someone that when we'd seen the news of the fact that Lynch wasn't playing and that it had been Naomi Ferris who'd been named as a replacement, I had concerns that she'd probably end up being a forward. But Newton did play all the game down back, bar some CBA minutes, which was a very interesting move for her. Now, she's not going to gain, I don't think she's going to gain much price because she didn't end up having a great score. A lot of those kicks actually ended up being dispersed between her, Naomi Ferris and Georgia Stathis. But I still think that if you're looking for some value in your forward line, Newton is a bit of a chess piece at the moment, and they appear to be using her as a chess piece for good fantasy roles. So I'd definitely be looking at her, and I like her value.
Yeah, I was impressed with her as well, even though the 65 maybe doesn't look as good. But we know the forwards that it's not like the mids we want everyone scoring not 100 plus. It's like anywhere from probably 70 to 90 is a decent score, barring obviously the Gardners, Morrisons, Hawes, Too Goods, those forwards going like 100 plus most weeks. But the other forward that I brought into my team, this is a bit of a risky one, was Chelsea Randall. So 63 points, played a bit more of that role that we'd seen last year and in previous seasons where she's scoring a bit better, that midfielder that maybe goes a bit forward. But she was back as well. She's pretty much everywhere on the weekend. At priced at 673, I don't know what her price will be once the game lifts, but is she an option for coaches to consider as a very discounted forward? She's down 506,000 on the season.
I definitely think that she's an option for cash gen this week, and I think that's going to be the story of the week. A lot of players, a lot of fantasy coaches are struggling for bench options that have generated enough cash to allow for really big upgrades. And I think that what we saw from Randall is kind of what I've been talking about for a few weeks, which is once the games get a little bit tougher, the season and results get a little bit more important, and there's a healthier backline at the Crows, she will be placed in that role we've seen her play in before, which is a decent scoring role. The one thing to note with her is she did sit off a fair bit of the fourth quarter and also went down to the rooms at the end of the first quarter.
Right in front of me.
A bit of a knee knock/niggle, and did come back on and actually had a really good second quarter, if I remember off the top of my head. So it's just something to watch for. But I think if you're going to take a risk, you always want to take a risk on those players you've seen do it before. And we know that if she's got that, let's say just forward, who drifts into stoppages and maybe tags 20, 30% of the game, she can comfortably score 70s and 80s. And given what she's priced at, that's 15 point overs her price stat score. So definitely a name on my list.
Yeah, what was she priced at again? Sorry, I missed that.
That's a great question. I was just going off what I expected it to be. So she's priced at 60. So yeah, my guess maths was actually pretty good. She can comfortably go 15 above that price, that number, based on last week.
Yeah, and with the 71%, I saw it, so I heard like signing some more guys taking photos right at the end and sort of jogging and walking around, and she looked fine, which was good. So it didn't look like it bothered her too much. And yeah, I think that she rested pretty much most of the whole last quarter, and she played like the first 6 or 7 minutes, then was off for about the last 10 minutes. So I think that was purely just with the game in hand. I know Hatchard obviously rested the last quarter, but that might have been with that ankle. And then Noffy also came off with about 3 minutes to go. So that was, I think, just the Crows managing them. So, 63 could have been a lot more, so could be a good target. Well, I hope so anyway, because I jumped on it a week earlier. Alice Edmonds scored a 60, but I will discuss sort of her and the rucks a little bit later on. So we'll sort of go a little bit more with them with a question and stuff after. But Edmonds got a 60, probably a little bit unders from what people were expecting from her. They're probably hoping for a little bit more. But again, she played 95% time on ground, which is, again, very, very high for a ruckman. And the last 2 weeks, she played 100% in each of the games as well. Rora Smith got a 57, continues that little bit of cash gen there. Also, Maggie Gorham, for anyone that's got her as well, got a 56 there. Kiara Mueller got a 46. So if anyone's, again, still rocking with her, might be a little bit more cash gen from her as well. And then, fair few injuries in this game. Abby Ballard, knee injury, that didn't look too good. So that could be a long-term one there. So that's also maybe Liam, another player out of that midfield where Randall probably goes more forward and mid. So it's probably another name to think with any coach out there. And then Carruthers, Coyne and McLeod were also all ruled out. And obviously Coyne and McLeod were out pretty early in the game as well. So moving on to the Saturday games. So St Kilda and GWS, with St Kilda winning by 13 points. Elise Parker, 105. So, well, Liam, did you see what happened? I didn't actually catch the end of this game. Do you see what happened to Elise Parker at the end of the game? Apparently she copped an injury or something, an ankle?
Actually copped that injury in the third quarter. Rolled an ankle. And then still, I think she might have been on 80-odd, 85, 86 at the time. Looked really bad, could barely put any weight on it, and stayed on the field remarkably, and then sat forward in the fourth quarter and managed to kick a goal to get her score up to that 105. And it's a real Herculean effort to do it. She is so important to that team. I can imagine that GWS would be putting every single possible effort into getting her right to play this week, but definitely one where we want some decent injury reporting. It's a pity it's at GWS, who've so far this year been pretty abysmal with their injury reporting. I'm still triggered by some analysts listed moments in round 2 and round 3.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as well. But 105, great score, just to see if she is ruled out or not, or if she misses any time. But then again, if your team's in a good position, maybe with round 9, Lucy Single tag likely coming up, if you wanted to maybe sideways or another midfield, that could also be a play for anyone in a good position if she does play this week. Zali Goldsworthy, Liam. Actually, I'll go to Tom for this one because I know he's joined us back. But I know, Liam, you probably want to add stuff about Goldsworthy because I know you're a fan. But Tom, mate, what did you make of Zali's game on the weekend? Scored 100 and just looked very, very good.
Yeah, as you said, it looks very, very good. Is easily the best forward for GWS currently and works up the ground really well. You can see her disposals have just gone up. I think it's plus 12, something like that from last season alone. But she's averaging 18 disposals, 11 of those being kicks. And when she's kicking goals like she did in the game, it's fantastic. She had 8 tackles as well. She nearly had a couple big marks, but her and Garnett sort of got in each other's way a couple of times and they knocked the ball loose. So I think a little bit more communication. It's either Garnett or Goldsworthy would have had even more shots on goal throughout this game. But honestly, as we mentioned before, GWS aren't really the most fantasy-friendly team. But if there's one player I can recommend that you get other than Parker, it has to be Goldsworthy. She has been fantastic, even in matchups that aren't very favourable for her. She's just playing so good. And with that high disposal rate as a forward, it's just exactly what you want. And we haven't even touched on, a dynasty asset as well. So it's definitely a card that I don't have in GameDay Squad, but it's one that I need to be hunting because it seems like she's only getting better with every game she plays.
100%. She's very, very good. Liam, did you want to add anything with Goldsworthy there at all?
No, I think that's a pretty accurate summation of her quality. She is an elite level talent. Her goal sense is pretty spectacular. She loves the tackle, which is just a great asset to have in fantasy. And, she's continuously being thrown up around the ball at CBAs, being given a role that allows her to just go anywhere. I honestly think that the degree to which, I'm reading through some of them, the scores from GWS, the fact that they're not winning games is a pretty glaring indictment on the game plan that they've got. The fact that you can get outclassed by, a pretty middling St Kilda team with a lineup that includes Parker, Goldsworthy, Beeson, Eva, Evans, Zarika, Garnett, Hicks, Barr. And then you've also got Izzy Huntington, who literally cannot clunk a mark at the moment because the service to her is downright dreadful. It really does make it a frustrating watch because, there's just so many amazing assets in there, and the fact that they're barely able to put together, 30 points. I'm so frustrated watching them.
Yeah. No, I tend to agree with that as well. But I know that one discussion in our Discord chat, Liam, was Goldsworthy or Roberts. So who would you pick? Just a quick one. Who would you pick out of the two?
It really is line ball in my mind. I think that the grit over the ball and the tackling of Goldsworthy versus just the sheer versatility of Ella Roberts, it really does depend on what kind of team you're going to make. I think at the moment, I'd almost prefer Goldsworthy, but it's very difficult to prefer one or the other both in a vacuum. It would really depend on your roster. But they are extremely close and just incredible talents.
I think I agree, though. I think I'd give Goldsworthy the nod as well.
Yeah, I want both, but if I had to pick one, I'd just go Roberts. I reckon I'll probably just because I've watched Roberts more. I guess that's probably the reason why. But both I'd love in my team. Ty Smith, of course, a trader this week, thinking I have to get rid of her, and she scores an 85, being the top scorer for St Kilda. And I only gained, 11 points by getting Georgie Prasparkas in, and who got tagged by Orla Lally, which we'll talk about in a sec. But I was a bit surprised Orla Lally was the one tagging her. But anyway, Jesse Wardlaw scored a 75. Solid score for any of those coaches that did jump on over the last couple of weeks. Tani Evans responded after a couple of down weeks with a 71, so sort of just alleviating any concerns that a few coaches may have had. I think she's still an option that you're keeping her, you're not trading. Moving down here, I know that Nikki Zenos went off injured as well with a 55. For anyone that, I don't know if there's many owners out there after she was suspended, but she is injured. Something to note if you did have her. Nicola Bars only scored a 54, so I think she got crunched in a contest as well, but she came back on and got a 54. So not great, but considering that it might have looked like she would have been ruled out, but then she came back on 54 isn't the end of the world. And Renee Karras, a few people might have jumped on, only scored the 37. It was Cambridge McCormick that actually got more of the ruck time, and she scored a 47. So anyone that jumped on her at basement would be pretty happy with that score there. But at least her and Karras will make a little bit more cash this week. And then I think the big one, Hannah Priest. Boys, what are we doing with only a score of 30? I think GameDay Squad, I think you keep her in your lineup and just sort of hope that it turns around. But in official, with sort of the cash sort of will go up and down. She's going to drop a bit this week and probably have a pretty high break even. Are we holding if a few St Kilda defenders come back in, or are we trading, sort of anticipating that she'll go down a fair bit in cash?
I think that you do trade, if only because this was meant to be an easy scoring matchup for her with GWS. And as much as she's got an incredible matchup next week, if she's playing that quarterback role in defence without actually touching it, she might, score a 50 again. But I'd argue you can get a 50 from, 30 other players, and some will be priced at 500K. You can bank, let's say 250. It's at the lowest estimate. I definitely think you just do it and just say, that cash can be much better used in the midfield. And there's every possibility she goes back in the mids and scores an 80 again, but I just don't know if it's worth it to hold when she's probably just going to kill her cash gen completely.
Yeah, and then I guess you can go across to a more serviceable defender not more serviceable, but one that you've probably got a more banked sort of 60, and then maybe get that cash and use it elsewhere in your midfield, and maybe get a better midfielder, or even get up to it. That might be the route to getting even though Robertson and Malloy and that have been like Roberts good last couple of weeks of Malloy, but it could get you to a Bonnie Too Good, who's obviously been killing it. So that could be something to look at moving forward. And then Izzy Huntington as well has got the 27. So she's on a lot of people's benches, but unfortunately just not making the cash that we might have hoped that she would have. Moving on to Geelong and Freo. Geelong winning by 24 points. It could have been more. They were just a bit inaccurate there. But Georgie Prasparkas, top scoring, which I thought was going to be the case, and I was happy to see at the top. But then when you only see a 9 in front of her, it's 96 is solid, but I thought it was going to be over 100. So, but considering she got tagged by Lally, not a bad score. She's got some good matchups to come. I still think she's a very good underpriced option there. Her partner in crime, A. McDonough, also did very well with a 94. Just the marks and tackles were a bit down. If they were a bit higher, maybe that would have pushed her into a higher score. But she was solid once again. Also another decent target. Chantel Emerson, 85. So one of those defenders that's just been under the radar and getting it done every week. Tom, I know you've been a fan of Emerson's work so far this season. Is she someone that you are going to be considering to maybe bring into your defence?
I've been invested for a little bit, Bales. She's well into my defence by now. It's just the kick-in numbers for me, mate. Like, you just see how much of the bulk kick-ins that she's taking for the team. Against the Demons, no one else took a kick-in. Against the Bombers, no other player took a kick-in. Emerson is the person that's going to be taking that role. And, when you have that kick-in buffer, and she's playing on every time as well. As I said earlier in the year, we pulled up some of the numbers, but, mate, she's just been fantastic. I love her role with Geelong, and she's just like at the moment for me, she's set and forget. Like, I just can't reason taking her out of my lineup, even in official. I got on her a bit earlier in official, put in my team, and even with the cash gen, I just don't even think it's worth, taking her out or doing anything like that. So in terms of game day squad, mate, she's sitting nice and pretty. I've loved her stats all season. Her disposals per game, she's at 17.7. Bulk of those being kicks. In game day squad, you get a little buffer for the kicks. It's just perfect.
Yeah, she's been very, very good. Nina Morrison scored an 82 as well. So responding a bit from last week with a low score. 82 was a little bit down than what she'd been at the start of the year, but again, just a low-scoring game in general with just the 4 players over 80. So Nina, solid score, and she'll continue to get it done.
Just one thing, Bales. Actually, a really high-scoring game. It was 12-30 points overall for Geelong. It was just that it was really evenly dispersed. I think half of Geelong had a score at 60 or above, or I think it might be 10. I'll just quickly...
Very high distribution, agreed.
Yeah, 10 players,
10 players who've had that many points. That's pretty uncommon, and that includes like Erin Hall with a 60, which would be her best score for best or second best score of the year. So it's more that there was so much space for them to kick it to. They didn't really have to target their best players.
Yeah. And
there also were just a couple of, small moments for both Georgie Prasparkas and Amy McDonald where, kicks were shorting them, or I'm absolutely certain that Amy McDonald was dudded out of 2 tackles as well. So it really doesn't change too much what I think about both of them. It was just a really even game across Geelong scoring.
Mim Strom scored a 74, but I guess probably the one thing to note was it was a little bit more of an even split between her and Anya Tai in terms of the hit-outs and also ruck contests. So, Liam, what do you make of that? And does that potentially rule out Strom in terms of those ruck options people are looking at, or are you still keen?
I'm still keen, because even if we're talking about it being a pretty even split, she had 74 points. And that's a lot to do with the fact that even if she isn't taking the ruck contest, she's still given that position, sitting outside 50, waiting for the ball to be dump kicked to her. So I really do rate her long term. She still will put in tackles. It was a lower output this week, but I do actually still believe in her. She's probably the most consistent Fremantle player this year. And I don't know if that's going to change. And look at that as well. Like 91% time on ground. She's fit. She's relatively young, and she's scored well almost every week.
Yeah. A couple of other Freo players that did okay in this game as well. So Ange Stannett got a 72 with 13 tackles, which is always, even though not the touches there, but it's always good to see them tackling their way to a solid score. So if you've got her, be decently happy with the 72. Darcy Maloney got a 69 as well. Going down here, Emery Driscoll, who had also been one of Freo's most consistent players, got a 60 again, and she's been very, very good outside of that 31 that she got against Richmond. So I still like her as an option. She's a bit expensive, but still an option there. Sarah Verrier scored a 61, so Liam again playing in that midfield role, and I don't know if she went behind the ball a few times as well, but is she a potential option as a cheaper defender that maybe if you're going Priest down and you've got a strong defence, maybe going Priest down to Verrier to bank a fair bit of cash that a play?
You could definitely take it as a play. I think it'll be a question of weighing up the good, which has been her role in the last 2 weeks, versus the bad. One, she plays for Fremantle, where roles change by the quarter, and also her time on ground, which is only 53%, which might have actually been the lowest for any player in the game. Second lowest above Talia Mulder.
Yeah, it was very strange. She essentially was off for the whole last quarter, which was very, very strange. And she's been a 70+% time on ground player all season. But yeah, that was a good 20% less. So I don't know exactly what that was down to. But yeah, something to note. But she was still solid regardless. And yeah, definitely someone to potentially look at based on where her price comes in at the end once lockout does lift. Erin Hall scored a 60, so if anyone still had her, there'd be a nice little bit of cash gen. Of course, I traded her this week on my bench. That was fantastic. Going down here, Talia Mulder, scored a 43, so not too bad on debut. Could be a solid downgrade option there. Megan Kaufman scored a 40. And by the way, I swear on the commentary team, they were in love with Kaufman in this game. They were saying that, I swear that she would have been on like 80 the way they were talking about her, but looking at her score being on a 40. I didn't quite get that.
She was touching the ball a lot if it was going inside 50 for Fremantle. I think she was actually leading them for inside 50s for a large portion of this game up until during the fourth quarter. But yeah, she just wasn't touching it anywhere else because they sat her at half forward.
Yeah, and she should definitely be playing midfield. But we have said before a few different things going on at Freo, to say the least. Claudia Gunjaka only scored a 37, so if you did have her, I think it would be time to jump off now. Gabby O'Sullivan only 27, so I don't think you'd be touching her regardless of how cheap she is. She could be someone that, if she is close to basement, you could just put her on your midfield bench and she could just be someone that you sit there. But besides that, I don't think you're looking at it. And that is it from that game. So we'll move to Sydney and Hawthorn, with Hawthorn getting the job done by 14 points. I thought it was going to go the other way this game, but Sydney going down in this one. Caitlin Ashmore got 114, top scoring for the game. Just a very good game for her. Laura Gardner in this one was a bit more low scoring. And funny enough, Liam, that's now Sydney have been involved in a fair few low scoring games. That's something to maybe note moving forward for not just Sydney players, but for maybe teams coming up against them, that there might not be as many points as maybe what we think.
Yeah, I think there is something to that. I'd probably more put this down to the way that Hawthorn plays. They really are just looking to basically make everything a mess and don't allow the kind of chip marks that can often create really big scores. And also, this was another game where there was a fair bit of wind over the weekend. And, I don't know if I'm factoring in too much. I think this can happen every now and then. I'm not going to try and overthink it.
Yeah, I think I agree. No, Laura Gardner, definitely not one that anyone is concerned about. But in terms of the scores, the next best Sydney player was actually Chloe Malloy on 76. So not too bad from Malloy there. I think a lot of people are probably still going to be holding her. But to Lucas Rod, who I know that I was keen on if coach were a little bit cash strapped, and I think Will jumped on to Lucas Rod this week. So 90, not too bad. Still underpriced if you're looking for someone that you could look at jumping on. Ali Morpher only scored a 62. So again, we'll discuss her a little bit more when we discuss all the rucks, because a little bit down from her lofty standards it's been so far this season. So it could be good that she's going to drop a bit of cash for non-owners there. Ella Head's only a 48, so a low score from her there. Tom, what were your thoughts with Ella Head's game on the weekend? And because she's in defence, are we just holding because there's so many of these defenders that can go sort of a little bit poorer? Or are you maybe looking at, now she's got a bit of cash, maybe switching over to another defender?
I think it's tough. It's sort of been the season of the Sydney Swans this year, hasn't it? Is that Ella Heads is going to have, a string of a couple of good games, a bit average after that. And if you look, what have we got? We've got Bulldogs next. There's a couple of good matchups coming up, in all honesty. I don't think it's time to panic on Ella Heads. I think a lot of people are going to be concerned looking at 8 disposals, 6 kicks. Like, that doesn't look, very appetizing as someone, if you got her in your team. But she does average 13 for the season. She does lead the Sydney Swans this season in the kickouts game. So, there is a little bit of a buffer there in terms of points. But I don't think it's time to panic, in all honesty. But there are a couple players I would be looking for in defense as well. I spoke about Belinda Smith the other week. She's going to be way too expensive now to trade over to someone like her. Gab Pound's playing a bit well. Cordner had a okay game. There's a couple different options you could look at, but I wouldn't do it panicking. I would be a little bit more strategic, looking at strength of schedule, if that's the decision you want to make.
And as Liam said as well, bit of a windy game there, so that might have impacted maybe a few of those +6 that we've seen Ella Heads getting throughout the season. So, I'd probably be holding unless you had your team was in a good spot and then you sort of didn't have any issues and you could look at maybe switching her across to another defender. Emily Everest, for anyone who's got her, scored a 40. I know I had her on for Moreau's Magic, so that, again, my Moreau's Magic defenders just like scoring 40s. I reckon that out of the 2 weeks, I reckon only 2 of the scores have been above or below 40, or they just love scoring 40s. Emily Bates, 39. So that was just a very poor game. Did either boys watch this game? Was she getting any attention at all, or was this just a really bad game from her?
I kind of had this going on the smaller screen, trying to watch the Geelong Fremantle game at the same time. She was definitely copying a tag in that first half and was doing her bit to try and draw the tag away. But as a result, her scoring at halftime, I think she might have been on like 9. She was on 13 at the half.
Yeah.
And then at a 24-point third quarter, and then only 2 points in the last. So, what a great score, and you'd be absolutely furious if you were an owner. But unfortunately, she did the team thing, and they managed to get a win out of it too.
Yeah, exactly right. But with the fact that I'm just having a look at the fixtures, and they're not too bad. Could she be someone in like a week or two if she's dropped enough cash that the coach's cash strap, the M5, could she just be someone that you maybe get there that's a bit cheaper, Liam?
Yeah, if she drops enough cash, then absolutely. If you're looking for a downgrade, possibly for Port Adelaide and Geelong stack, I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, that's something I might have to look at being one of those cash-strapped coaches so far this season, unfortunately. And I don't Talia Fellows, who I brought in my team this week, scored a 39. Bit disappointing looking at 0 goals, 3. Would have been really not handy if she could have kicked a couple of goals there and got that 50 for me. But hopefully she'll go up a bit of cash regardless anyway, which is nice as an owner. Tanya Kennedy only scored a 30 for me. I think it's time to go for her. I've had her for 3 weeks. She had a good first week, and then the last 2 have been really bad, and she's going to drop a bit of cash as well. I still think she was stitched up with a couple of tackles and missing a kick, but again, we know Chammy Dud does miss a few things, which is very unfortunate for our fantasy teams. And I believe that's it from that game. So we'll move on to the Q Clash, Gold Coast and Brisbane, with Brisbane getting the job done by 36 points. Jack Dupay top scoring with 103, who's been pretty solid this year, but been a little bit up and down. So I'm not sure we'd be looking at bringing her in. Charlie Rowbottom, who I know, Liam, that you just bringing her in. Did you bring it? Was it last week, or did you bring it in a few weeks ago?
I've had her for 3 weeks.
Went Riddell?
Now. I actually, unfortunately,
I
sideways from Riddell, and that'll hurt. And I could have brought Riddell in the week after, and I didn't. So that also will forever sting. But I think that Rowbottom's effort up against the toughest matchup, it's well down on her average, and we kind of expected that. But to get to that 101 is a pretty champion effort.
Yeah, and she's got Port Adelaide this week, then GWS, and then finishes off with the Bombers. So a little bit tough, but the next 2 weeks could be decent scores for Rowbottom. So she still she's a bit more expensive, but if you don't have her, she could be an option to be looking at jumping onto. Other scores here. So Claudia Whitford scored 100. Ali Anderson scored 100 with the Lucy single tag, which I think got dropped at various portions of the game. So I still think that she is a great target to be bringing in. She's got the Crows this week, who do give up the most points to midfielders. I think before this week, I'm not sure if it'd be changing, or they give up the top couple in terms of points against. And then she's got St Kilda and finishes off with Melbourne. So tough match up there. So Tom, are you going to be looking at bringing Ali Anderson into your side?
Yeah, fortunately I did last week, and I'm very impressed with the performance of the tag. And if you actually just go through her quarter by quarter numbers there, she just seemed to get more and more involved as the game got on in terms of disposals, especially. So you can tell, like, absolute champion of a player playing in a premiership caliber team. So she's been great. She's really consistent. I know you gave her big raps earlier this season, Bales, because you were talking about her fantasy floor. You just sort of know what you're going to expect from Anderson, just because being there, done that, as we mentioned, just like a champion player. So I agree. I think it's a great move to bring her into your team, especially with this very juicy matchup this week in Adelaide. I'll be playing Anderson and the 2 Adelaide players, Marinoff and Hatchard, like, of course, pending injury. You broke that news. But yes, I'll be getting her in my teams.
Yeah, she's been very, very good. This season has Ali Anderson, I believe. I'm just getting her exact numbers up. So, yeah, she's only had the 2 scores below 100, and they've both been 90s. So, yeah, just that consistency. Again, she doesn't have the high ceiling, but if you would just want a player that's going to get you essentially 100 every week, she would be one of those players that you're putting there. Talia Hickey scored an 80. So, Liam, is she maybe someone? Well, she's been a bit down this year than what we thought. We thought she's going to take that step up into that sort of elite, sort of top 3 fantasy ruck. But been a bit down. But a good score on the weekend in a tough matchup against Gold Coast. Is she someone that could be thrown into that ruck conversation if we're looking at moving off of a Matilda Schultz or even a Lauren Wackfer, whom a few coaches have got?
I definitely think she adds her name into the bucket. It's gonna. I must admit, I've not looked at her run upcoming for ruck scoring, but eye test wise, she was a really great interceptor in this game and put in a top 3 or 4 performance for the game from my eyes. So I definitely think that she's going to be the cheapest of the upgrade options per se from a rookie. But it obviously comes with the risk that she's been a little bit up and down. As much as I think she passes the eye test football-wise, she's not added that elite fantasy pedigree just yet.
Yeah, so she's got the Crows, St Kilda and Melbourne to come. So I'm not sure exactly where they rank in terms of how hard they are for rucks, but potentially someone that you could add to the ruck list if you can't afford one of those top options there. But we will talk about the rucks once we finish with the games here. Sophie Conway scored a 70, just sort of reliable 60 plus scores from Conway, and again getting it done with a 70. So if you did have a 70 is not too bad. Daisy Darcy with a 64 in a pretty tough match against Brisbane, and we were a lot of us were saying that Daisy Darcy with Richmond and Brisbane back-to-back was not great, but now I think her run opens up with Port Adelaide, GWS and Essendon. So, Tom, is she someone that you're going to be looking at bringing into your side?
Yeah, I actually took her out of my GameDay Squad side for this week. As you mentioned, playing against the Brisbane Lions is a very, very tough ask in most positions around the ground, especially as a defender as well. She is someone I'm looking at bringing in. So looking at the matchups moving forward, it's looking quite tasty. There's some good ones in there for her. What have we got? Port, GWS. Essendon seems to be the only hard one in terms of points given up for defenders, but the other one's easy and neutral. I'd be backing her in, especially for next week in particular. I really like the Port matchup, but if you were going to bring her in, maybe just for that round, because fortunately in GameDay Squad, we have the unlimited trades, and I'll be playing it by year and touch and go. But Daisy Darcy will be starting for me this week, that's for sure. But for the other 2 rounds, I might look elsewhere, I'll be honest with you guys.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much locked in. I'll be going Kennedy to Daisy Darcy this week, I think. I think that's the trade that I'll be looking at going. Lucy Seal got to 64, so she was on, I think she was on 24, 28 or something like that at halftime. So 64 is not a bad score. And Port Adelaide's what you might keep for another week, but she could be someone on the forward line that you maybe shuffle to another option with the scores a little bit lower of late. But 64 is decent considering that it could have been a lot worse there as well. Scrolling down the list here of players from this game, I think that's pretty much about it. I don't think there's too much else fantasy-wise from that game. So we'll move on to the Dreamtime at Icon Park game, Richmond and Essendon. So Essendon getting a job done by 17 points to Liam's delight. Monconti top scoring of 108. So again, just getting it done every week. I'm just pulling up her numbers here. So I don't think she's gone below 80 all season, and she's only gone below 100 on 3 occasions. So, Liam, is she one of those players that you still hesitant bringing in, thinking that she may be a little bit behind your Marinos, Garners, Rowe Bottoms and those players? Or do you think that maybe it's we got to be looking at her as an option?
You definitely can't discount her fully as an option. I just don't think she's got the ceiling long term. Like, she's upped her tackling in the last couple of weeks, and even then that was just 8 tackles this week. I also think that's a function of the Bombers were ball dominant and clearance dominant in a way that few sides have been in games this year. And to be honest, I would never bring her in because I'm part of the anti-pro Monconti gang, because there are just so many times where you can just so obviously tell her teammates don't know where she's going to go with the ball. And so everyone just stands still and waits for Mon to do something. And Richmond sometimes actually look worse off as a result, as much as Mon Conti is an elite player. So that's one of my few football takes. But in terms of people bringing her in, like, I'm not going to, but I'm not going to say to anyone, no, you can't do it. I think she can still score absolutely fine.
Yeah, she's definitely upped her fantasy scoring this season again with the
leads the league in CBAs. I know that Popowski might have something to say about that. He says it's not so relevant, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah, exactly right. But a trio of Bombers, actually a quartet of Bombers players all scoring very well. So, Liam, just get your probably thoughts on Steph Wales, 99, who's probably another ruck that hasn't really been talked about as much, but has definitely put her name or a hat into the ring in terms of those rucks. Maddie Praspargas with a 95 in a bit of a sort of not many ceiling scores, a bit of a lower scoring game as well. Jean Anscombe, if a few people still got it with 93, and then Bonnie Toogood with 83, which was looks okay as a forward, but considering that with Toogood this year, it's been a lot more hundreds. So, Liam, your thoughts on those players?
So, as much as I think Steph Wales had a great game, she's rucking up against Poppy Kelly. There was no real ruck time in centre bounces or around most of the ground. With as much as Seymour was playing, she's clearly not fully fit. So, playing as a defender, and she has done this in the past. She's got a nice enough ceiling, but I personally don't think. I think she's got a flaw that concerns me. Maddie Praspargas, she put together a pretty typical Maddie performance. What I find hilarious is there's 6 free kicks for and 4 free kicks against. It was a very testy game in the midfield at times, and also just a little flag that there might be a fine incoming for Maddie for a dangerous tackle and possibly a suspension. I'm really hoping that that's not the case, but there was a tackle that had me a little bit worried on the replay.
Based on last few weeks, they've missed a fair few, so I think they probably will miss it.
Yeah, but you say that, then there was 1 week in the middle where there was like 5. So I don't know what they're going to get. Jean Ann's, look, I actually think that the Bombers are a final side last year if she plays. She is the true difference maker in the midfield. Her ability to get up and do about 3 or 4 things at a stoppage truly is the force multiplier for that Bombers midfield and allows some really big games from some of their outside players. And then Bon, like, down on her performance from the last few weeks. But I also think that as much as Gabby Seymour was not fully healthy this week, she is still a bloody good defender. And all of those skills that she has that allow her to be an elite ruck as a very undersized player transfer perfectly to being a defender on that hyper-mobile kind of Bonnie Toogood style, kind of maybe Dakota Davidson, Jessie Wardlaw style of player. She just covers ground amazingly. So as much as it was a down score from Bonnie, I think there's a pretty clear reason why it didn't really speak to me like a massive change in role.
Yeah, well, at least it's good for us non-owners. She'll be a bit cheaper because, it's looking at 1.3 million before this week. It was not great because I'm like, I don't know if I'm actually ever going to be able to get it this season, but you never know. We might be able to afford her at some point. Isla Sheeran scored a 77. So just being very consistent throughout the season, not going below 59 and 3 scores in a row in the 70s. And actually 4 of the last 5 have been over 70. So I think she's definitely in amongst those top 5. And if you've got her, I think you're definitely holding. And if you don't have her, she could be someone that you do look at taking. I think Richmond have got a bit of a trickier. Well, Hawthorn this week, not too bad. Geelong, and then they finish off with Collingwood. So actually not too bad, actually, looking at that. So Sheeran could be someone that you look to target in defence if you don't have her. Going down the list here. Now, so, Liam, how was it pronounced? Is Renee, is it Tani? Is that how we pronounce it?
No, Bales. Unfortunately, I was listening to that, and I also heard Mel give you the correct pronunciation, and then you repeated it completely incorrect. It was very funny when I was listening the other night. It's Renee
Tierney. Okay, yeah. Apologies.
And, yeah, she looked really, really good, and depending on the injury that we might see for Daria Bannister, Renee is someone who can play that role to some degree, and what I really liked from her was how high up the ground she was getting to take one of her 4 marks, and I think she even led the game for contested marks with 2. So definitely going to go up a bunch of cash this week, but I think you could jump on board if we see news that Bannister is going to miss some time.
Yeah. I looking at that score, I didn't actually get to catch this game, unfortunately. I was out. I tell you what, if you're in Adelaide, if no one's been to Lowithall Beer House, they're the best wings in the world, and I'm not joking by that. So, but I was enjoying those, so didn't get to catch the game. But looking at the score, I was really surprised and real pleasantly surprised seeing the 54 there. So, yeah, hopefully, I don't think I'll be able to get her in. I've been locked out with Caitlin Pope putting up some not great scores, not going up in cash. So I won't be able to probably do that. But if you want a downgrade option, she could be that downgrade there. Greg Grace Egan, unfortunately, with a 53. So she's been a bit up and down. She had those good few weeks, but then unfortunately this week was probably back to what she was doing a little bit earlier in the season. She's got those good ceiling games, but just not the consistency there just yet for her in her scoring. So if you do have her, she's probably one you can jump off with after the cash gen that she's made. Sarah Hoskins, just one to probably keep an eye on for maybe next season. Just she'll be very, very cheap, obviously with a few injuries this season. Only the 4 touches, 8 tackles, only 46. But as someone to keep note, maybe next year is a bit of a discounted player. Mia Bush, for anyone that's still got her, only the 25. Wicksteed, only 22 as well. So if anyone did jump on her this week at the inflated price, that was not the score that you wanted to see from her. So moving to the Sunday games from today. So Jazz Garner, 140. Ash Riddell, 139. Jenna Bruton, 124. Me and Mel were talking on Friday saying we're not sure if all three can continue to put up 100-plus scores. And not only did they do that, they all went over 124. So they were all massive. And I know me and Liam are going to rue us our mistake of going, well, not mistake, but trading Riddell to row bottom because it's probably netted about the same amount of points. But we both started her thinking she's going to have a good year, and she's definitely having a good year. She's now the 4th highest averaging player. And she's 6 points clear of the next. Is it the? Sorry, hang on. Did I get that wrong? No, yes, she's 4th highest averaging player, and it's just Garner behind, and they're the only players over 110. So yeah, Riddell has been very, very good. Jenna Bruton. So Tom, she's been pretty consistent. Well, very good the last 3 weeks. All scoring over 110 in each of them. Is she too expensive now? Is that just what you're probably putting down? It's probably just one that we've missed.
What is her price at the moment,
she
actually?
is, let me get the price up, unless someone does put up before me.
Updated. 1.08.
No, it's not updated. So she'll be probably closer to 1.2.
At that price, I think it's a little bit too expensive. But in terms of GameDay Squad, I think she's a player you need to look at if a pod player. If you need someone right now in your midfield, I know I was talking about to you earlier today that I need to get a Riddell on my midfield, which I really do. If you have one, feel free to DM me. We can sort out a trade. But Bruton, pod, a player that not a lot of people are probably looking at. But, man, she has been killing it. I totally agree. If you look at her averages, 23 disposals, and, of course, that's just been going up over the past couple of weeks. The word to describe her is workhorse. She just gets around the ground, doesn't she? She nearly dropped a triple-double in NBA terms in this game. Like, she just does a little bit of everything. Finished it off with a goal. And at that, all 3 finished with a goal, which that's an awesome fantasy topper to have from your midfield players. So they are on a roll, this North midfield. How does their schedule look coming up?
So North Melbourne, next week they've got Melbourne, so tough matchup there. Then they've got Adelaide, who we know get
Adelaide,
points,
which is probably
Bulldogs,
good.
who are good as well. So tough one, but then a couple of good ones to finish.
Yeah, it's expensive in official formats, but in GameDay Squad as a pod player, if you do need, your 5th mid spot filled out, I'd be definitely looking at someone like Bruton and maybe even asking for a trade for a couple of players that you have that you aren't playing with.
Yeah, definitely something to look at. I've got a Bruton sitting in my club, so she could be someone I plug into my midfield in the next couple of weeks there. They do remind me a bit of the Bulldogs from a few years ago, where it's just you have two or three players actually every week going over 110, and some weeks you might even have all 3 or 4 going over 115. So, all going very, very well. Gemma Houghton, 84, been pretty consistent in the forward line. If anyone did jump on her, she's a bit. I remember at the start of the year she was, I think, closer to 600k at one point, and I sort of half looked at it and I sort of thought, I don't know if I can trust going there. But since then, she's just been very, very good. I'm just putting up her scores of late. So since the 38 she scored against Brisbane, which tough match up there, 79, 88, 81, 60, and 84. So just consistent, getting it done. So if you jumped on her just maybe a week or two after that bad score, you'd be very, very happy with how she's going. Abby Derrick, 71. I know, Liam, you jumped on her as well. Unfortunately, not quite the outcome that we've wanted. With an 88 and a 71, is it probably time to be jumping off?
Yeah, I would be looking to upgrade. Thankfully, I only jumped on board in Moreira's Magic, but yeah, it's really tough. She has a good enough fantasy game. I think the biggest issue is Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
She had 17 touches and, not getting involved in the kick mark game, but then almost no one is in that team. They've only had 35 marks for the game, and I think this might have also been the most one-sided fantasy matchup of the year with 13-14 points for North Melbourne and only 902 for Port Adelaide.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Crazy. That is a crushing.
When you look at it, players over 60 points, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 North Melbourne players, with 4 of them over 90, and obviously 3 huge ones. And Port only had 3, 4, only had the 5, and then a lot in like the 50s and 40s. So as you said, Liam, just a very one-sided game. Then I'll be looking at going Derrick up to one of those top mids this week. That'll be sort of my main area of focus. Going along here, Matilda Schultz, 65. So again, she'll be one that we will discuss in a sec with the rucks, because she's probably the main part of that story. But she was solid with a 65 there. Again, just dominates in the last quarter. She always does. Erin Phillips, 57. For any coaches that held on to her, it was an okay score. Again, just no marks, no tackles, 2 behinds as well. Just not quite the ceiling there. Emma Carney, 55, probably had a bit more to do with the fact that the ball wasn't really down there too much, but it would have been nice if she could have jumped up with the one-sided game, but she'll be fine. That will be probably her worst score for the year. Just going down here. And then Amy Smith. If anyone's still got Amy Smith, I think it is time to be moving on if you haven't already. Only a 33 again, so I'd be jumping off. Yep. And that is it from that game.
Well, yep. I'd just like to give a shout out to Emily Borg, who scored a 44. There's only a 370k player sitting on my pine, but doing it playing up against Talia Randall, who probably has 5 to 6 centimetres on her as a second-year player. To manage to score that, I'm going to give it a personal shout out, given it was a bloody tough game for anyone to score.
Yeah, no, it was unfortunately tough day at the office for the Port Adelaide players there. Moving to the final 2 games, we'll probably go through these a bit quickly. I didn't realise we're ticking around the hour mark. So Bree Davey, 122. I traded her in Rose Magic this week for Georgia Prasparkas. So that was fantastic. She was huge with 15 tackles. I will discuss a bit more because there was a question about her, so we'll probably discuss that with the question. Britt Benici, 119. Very good from her as well. Both Collingwood midfielders getting it done. Tom, are they options to bring back in after a lot of coaches trade out, or do you think that this is just a good game from them? Maybe they're not quite as high as your row bottoms and that.
There's one word that comes to mind for me. It's Rugrats. I can't believe the week I tried it out, Davey. She just goes bonkers, man. But she had such a fantastic
first score over
game.
100 since round 1.
Yeah, I know, and it really hurts. It's just like the timing. I just held on to this dream. I was like, she'll get right, and then all of a sudden, I trade her out. I've had enough. I've given up, and then she goes, "This is why you should have held on to your belief." So it sucks. And as we spoke before in NBA terms, actually had a triple-double in this game. Double-digit in kicks, handballs, and tackles. Looking like she's at her absolute best again. I know she was nursing a bit of an ankle niggle or ankle injury throughout times of this season, but she looks like she's back to full health. Is it someone that I would bring in? Yeah, it is. She's sitting under $1 million at the moment. I assume that'll get closer to maybe 1.1, just below before the start of next round, but it's definitely a player that you should be looking to bring into your teams. And I just want to see the schedule that she has coming up as well.
Tough, easy.
Yeah.
Yes, dude.
I think the one word I want to say from this game is just slop.
Yeah.
Because this was a 93 tackles to 83 tackles game.
Yeah.
Should give you a pretty good indication of Bree Davies' role was actually crap. Like, she didn't have CBA. She didn't have a single one. Like, I'm sitting there at the game on the wing. She rolled in off half forward, just has 15 tackles. And I reckon that there were at least 20 minutes of this game, particularly in the second quarter, where the ball didn't leave a patch of ground that would be more than 50 metres by 50 metres because no one could pick it up. The ball was wet, the kicking was crap, and the tackles were plentiful. And Davey just thrived on it. And like I think Benici was the same. Benici was incredible. She had at least, I think, 3 tackles for holding the ball, 3 kicks. But again, that score definitely impacted by the lack of skill, I'd say, from Carlton in the wet, just causing an absolute slop of a match.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. It's a really good point. But as I gassed up Davey, I do think Benici's the higher upside player, the more skillful player. 19 kicks out of 22 disposals, also finished with a goal, has the midfield role. So if you are going to bring one or the other in, I think Benici has the highest ceiling for me and is the person I would be targeting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree as well. Bree Moody, so 84, but I think that the bigger impact is that Jess Good went off in the fourth quarter. I think it was with an ankle injury. So we'll discuss the rucks in a sec, but Liam, just sort of a word on I think it's pretty obvious. I think if Jess Good's out for the remainder of the season, I don't know if you saw how bad the injury was, but if she's out for the season, I think that makes Bree Moody a smash play.
Yeah, I didn't see how bad the injury was. That was on the far side of the ground in the rain, so definitely difficult to see. But yeah, she's a smash play. She's not managed to score amazingly, and lo and behold, she's given a high ruck contest role in that fourth quarter, and she scores 31 points, and that was including a couple of drop marks as well inside forward 50. So she wasn't far off from a goal either.
Yeah,
it'll be for one question we'll forever ask, which is, why wasn't Bree Moody the All-Australian rucking all year? Because Carlton looked the best in the fourth quarter at times, and that's probably down to the impact that Moody has. So I really think that she'll be someone who'll be back there again.
Yeah, and
definitely someone who's going to be lowly on.
Yeah, and if she is the solo ruck this week, who she got? She's got the easiest matchup, or one of the easiest matchups in GWS. So yeah, if she's the solo ruck, she could definitely be someone that you look at. And as I'm seeing, my screen just looked like that Lockout. I don't know if Lockout's lifted, but the prices have all updated there as well. So it's good to see. If anyone is wanting to look at the price and stuff, they've all updated. Going through a few more plays this game here. Karen Peterson was back with a 78. Geordie Allen with a 75. Now, Liam, I know she's very cheap. Is there any interest from you just based on how cheap she is?
Yeah, absolutely. She's someone who's been top 5 before she came into the season as a top 5 averaging defender. And we've seen again that when Collingwood are playing well, she's someone who does get a bunch of the ball coming off half back.
Yeah. So I'm just actually looking at her price now, because the good thing is I can now look at the price because they've all updated. So Geordie Allen's now priced at 575, went up 39k this week. So that could be someone that I look at going Kennedy shuffling across to Geordie Allen. That might be something I'll look at as well. Keely Shearer, 73. A bit lower than last week, but still a solid enough score for anyone that's still got her. If you've got a Merez Medley, I think she's just a season-long hold as a forward, but in official, maybe you look at upgrading her to another midfielder there. Sarah Rowe, 61. Looked like for this could have been a game where she does put up that floor score, but again, just getting to that 60 plus. So yeah, just very, very solid. And she's even though you probably wanted more than 61 in your forward line, still not too bad. Gab Pound, 56. I probably wouldn't be targeting her just with Karen Peterson being back into the side there. Harriet Cordner, 54 as well, was solid for anyone that held her. I don't think she scored anything in the last quarter as well, if I'm correct. Or
scored nothing in the
third quarter. Sorry,
11 in the last.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. Got the quarters mixed up there. Eliza James, 49, could be someone you're looking as on your bench after going down a bit in price, being injured all the way back in round 1. Kara Fitzgerald was a late in, so I think if that actually took a few coaches by surprise because they weren't able to take a few VC loops. So, they had to choose another captain. So, unfortunate for those coaches. But Fitzgerald, good for cash gen. I think she went up about another 50K, which is always nice there. Finally seeing some cash gen on my own bench, which is nice. And I believe that's it for the game. So we'll smash out the final game, go to a few questions. Final game, West Coast going down to Melbourne by 70 points. Pretty one-sided game there. First quarter was a bit closer, but after that was one-sided. Charlotte Thomas, 111 points. She is now the highest averaging defender. She's just under $1 million. Even though I traded Carney to her, I'm still very happy with the trade. And she just looks fantastic, even though West Coast is struggling. If you don't have it, it's probably she's probably too expensive now to pay $993 for a defender. But if you've got we can enjoy her scores. Ella Roberts, 99. She's actually now she shot up a bit as well this week. Went up 85K, up nearly $1 million. So she was very good there. Kate Hoare, unlucky, but then also lucky at times to get to 83.
Extremely lucky. Kissed. Extremely kissed.
The last one.
Oh my word. Oh,
how about the last one? Yeah. How I thought, here we go. We're on for some points here.
No, I could not believe that. Even the
Neither.
rules say that the player has to be off the ground.
She was watching the kick from inside the forward 50. Exactly.
It's absolutely ridiculous. But then watching that game, she gets at least 2 to 3 set shots at goals a game off little diagonal passes inside 50 that go no more than 12 metres. And it happens with unerring regularity. And there was at least 3 this week as well. I've always talked about the fact that, like, no matter how bad the score you think it's going to be from Kate Hoare, I guarantee you she'll get at least a +7 or possibly even go the +12 just because, like, anyone who doesn't think they can make the distance by any amount goes, all right, where's Kate? Let's kick the ball 10 metres on the diagonal.
I'll be honest with you, you're right.
Shot.
But I have to turn a blind eye in these moments. I think it's clearly 15.
Oh, yeah, clearly 15. Clearly 15, my ass. That was an amazing work to 83 because she could not get near the ball in that first half. And I'm honestly going to put that down to Melbourne actually being pretty sloppy going inside 50 in that first half. And I'm almost certain they got a stern word because they were not actually doing a whole lot right going inside forward 50. It was basically all up to Alyssa Bannon to just be the fastest player in the comp by the length of the Flemington Straight.
Yeah, that was very good to watch. I was actually one of the ones that didn't think Kate Hoare was going to go too big this year. I thought it'd be shared around from a lot of Melbourne players, which turned out to be the case. Plenty of players going from anywhere from 98 to 66. So, but still 83, take that every day of the week. Could have been more with the 2 goals, 3. And yeah, she's definitely a top 5 forward. Belinda Smith, 69, a little bit lower than what she has done last few weeks, but I think she's still going to be in amongst top 5 defenders with West Coast struggling there. Emma Swanson, that was her worst score for the season with a 60. I just think you probably cross her off just with being how bad West Coast are, unfortunately, this season. So I don't think we're going near her. Could be someone if West Coast maybe do some off-season moves, maybe get better next season. Maybe she's a discounted player, but probably not for this season. Rhiannon Watt, 53 for her first game for Melbourne. I think she'll be pretty cheap, but I don't know if we're going there, but still something to note that she had an okay game sharing the ruck with Grace Campbell there. Going down here, Amy Mackin got a 47, so good for a little bit of cash gen for a lot of people's benches. Eden Zank got a 49, her lowest score, which a few people probably thought she's going to go better this week against West Coast after going pretty well and being the leading. I think she's the equal leading goal scorer in the comp as well. So going down here, Lauren Waxford, I think got a bit of an injury, so only 33. So I think I'd be trading her regardless, but it might be forced on you if she does miss time. I think she came back on, but I don't know if that will be anything to note moving forward. And I believe that is it from that game as well. So we'll go through a couple of questions just because I know we've been running a fair bit. But I think that the big question this week is with the rucks is that with Matilda Schultz going another 65 in what was meant to be a toughish matchup against the North Melbourne duo. Are we making the move of Matilda Schultz to someone, or is it a bit of a wasted trade with like a Morphet going a 62, Edmonds going a 62? I think Strom only went 74 and obviously sharing a little bit with Anya Tide this week. What are our thoughts, boys, with moving forward? Mate, Liam, I'll probably start with you with this one. What are your thoughts with the ruck situation moving forward?
I think that it's not as much of a smash play as we thought it was going to be. Just given that we've seen now that 200k you might have to put on to get up to someone who we call a primo could still very easily be the same score that Schultz has. And I think I like it if you can go to someone who's a little bit unique. I really do love it if you can get to Bree Moody. I think that we kind of saw the possible risk that comes with owning a Morfitt and thinking that that's a lock and load each week. And then, outside of that, I think that there might be some trades up to uber premium midfielders that you might prioritise as opposed to, looking to upgrade Schultz, who should still be fine for a 60-odd. We saw Hickey have her best score of the year this week against Lauren Bella, and so I don't think she's going to have a crap score again. I think we've seen now as well, Schultz has the ability to save her score really well. Kind of in any one quarter, she can really just explode, and she's done that basically every single week she's played.
Yeah, she's been very good. I think if Jess Good's maybe ruled out for the season and it's Bree Moody solo ruck, does that maybe change a few things? Maybe that could be a very astute trade, bringing her in.
Oh, she's definitely going to be pretty high on the list.
Yeah, I agree. I think so as well. Tom, do you agree with everything that Liam was saying there? Would you be maybe, if you've got other trades, maybe prioritising them if you've still got Schultz?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I just think Schultz, her value for the price is just so great. And like, you can move up, but you're going to have to spend an extra 300k to get, who knows how many more fantasy points from your ruck position. And I just don't think it's worth it, especially in my situation. I have much else to address in other areas of the field rather than my ruck. So I'm going to stick with Schultz. I think she's really good play, great value, and I'm not feeling forced to make that change.
Yeah, there you go. 240k to go up to Bree Moody and 242 to go to Ali Morfitt. So it is a bit of a jump if you're going up there. So I guess it's probably one of those ones where those coaches have got their sides pretty much complete and they had shots maybe could make that move. But I think with myself having like a Dowrick and like a Tanya Kennedy, I think maybe they're probably the more important trades at this point. But definitely something to for coaches to be considering, especially if Goods ruled out for anything beyond this week. We'll go through a couple of questions here. So Ben's saying, Ben's Hayes, Priest and Morfitt did me dirty. I'm very mad. Bruton +3. Who goes first out of Ty Smith, Hannah Priest, Jessie Wardlaw, and Ali Morfitt? And who are the best options? Well, I think Morfitt would be keeping. I don't think you're probably trading. I know it was a bad score, but probably not trading her out. But Tom, who are you trading out of Ty Smith, Hannah Priest, and Jessie Wardlaw? Who are you trading out of those three?
I'm just getting Priest's price up now, the updated price.
It's about 840.
I'm going Priest. I think it's a situation where I'm going to try to salvage everything I can. And it's if you have Priest, I don't. But if you have Priest, I think it's now or never. Because if she has another stinker, it's just going to get worse from here. And, you've probably made a good bit of cash, Jen, if you got her earlier in the year, or you've spent a good premium of your cash for your team, getting someone like Priest in. So I would be trading away. But for GameDay Squad, I think it's a different scenario. I think it's a scenario where you sub her out now and you see what that role looks like, as Liam was talking about before. Is she going to get a little bit more involved, get more kicks? If so, then you can sub her back in, and that's the beauty of it. But if not, man, I could not believe my eyes on the weekend.
Yeah. Liam, who would you be trading out of those first? Do you agree? Is it Priest? Pretty expensive, or is it maybe Ty Smith or Wardlaw?
I don't think it's Wardlaw. I definitely think it's Priest. I think Ty Smith again is a good matchup this week with Fremantle, but you're really gonna have to probably do double trades to get her up to anyone that you're really confident in, versus the confidence you can have in someone in the 700k range. I'm just trying to have a look at the defender pricing now, but you could go down to Darcy to 647k. You could take a chance on a Gab Pound this week at 755. If you really want to go risky, we've seen an awesome game from Viv Sard, and then that's kind of a trio of options where you're banking just a huge amount of cash, like 200k.
Yeah.
At least, I think that's the way to go versus, Ty Smith, you're going to need at least 200K on top of her to get to someone who could be that real difference.
Well, I was going to say maybe that's where you wait one more week and you wait for Bates to play Richmond, who can be a sort of a bit of an iffy matchup. Bates drops a bit more this week. She's 1.071 after dropping 132K. She might be pretty close to that $1 million mark, and you might be able to make that switch in a couple of weeks. So I think that could be something there. But yeah, I agree. I think it's Hannah Priest just because she's still got a fair amount of cash on her head at 846. You can at least make some cash. Like that's what 200K going down to Daisy Darcy that you're making. So that's a pretty substantial amount of cash for maybe someone that could score more, if not the same as each other. So going through a couple more questions here. What have we got? We have got the next one will come from Corey Blackledge, who said, who's the best value defender this week other than Daisy Darcy, as I need to go Dowrick to Riddell or someone better? So Liam, who are you looking at in defence and maybe outside of Daisy Darcy that's maybe good value?
Okay, so Gab Pounders at 755. I don't hate that as an option. Sarah Verriers, 626, who's seen she's got the good role, just, noting the concerns we had earlier. And then the cheapest I'd probably go is Naomi Ferris, who had a dominant first quarter and rounded out a pretty good game for 74 for what would have been a relatively difficult matchup for defenders. So, and she actually played a punch on half forward as well. So I think that's the lowest.
What about Geordie Allen at 575?
Oh, actually, yeah, that's true. I had not scrolled that far. I literally stopped at Ferris and gone, yeah, that's probably the cheapest I'd go. But yeah, Geordie Allen's also a very cheap defender that you can go to and hope you're getting 60s, which is probably what you can hope for and what you kind of hope for each week with these defenders. Like 60 plus, you're like, oh yeah, I'll lock that away and move on to the next week.
Yeah, I agree. Sexy Sam Flanders said, Liam, I know you mentioned it before about Viv Sard. Is Viv Sard an option in defence?
She is an option. Is she a better option than like an Allen or a Ferris? I'm not sure. She's not got a great scoring pedigree, and she had an awesome game, but a lot of her points were built off intercept marking, and we know that intercept marking is a pretty lumpy stat. There's not a lot of correlation for intercept possessions week to week, unless your name's Eilish Sheeran, and Sard's not been that kind of player week to week in the past. So I'd chalk that up to a really great game, but I don't think she's going to be a consistent scorer week to week.
Yeah. What have we got here? So Michelle said, is Geordie unlikely to go back to low scores when Livingston and Carlson come back from suspension?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think it's so much that those two players went out and therefore Allen had more of the ball. I think it's just that Collingwood were pretty dominant in this game, just in terms of really stopping Carlton from being able to do anything. And when Carlton was trying to kick it out of the Collingwood in the forward 50, the Collingwood ball was really well set up to really not allow much, and they were given a lot of kind of width to score as well. So I don't think she's going to go back to scoring lowly. I think we're kind of seeing now a Collingwood side that's rounding into just a better of an understanding of what kind of list they've got and what they need to do to play well. Because they really have been rubbed pretty rough by injuries throughout the year. The only flag might possibly be the return of Ruby Slisher. Possibly this week. She was a test to play up against Carlton.
Yep. Now it's something to monitor with Collingwood's defence, mate. Maybe do wait 1 week to see if Slisher comes back and maybe see how everything plays out. But she's still pretty cheap. You could maybe take that punt on her. Andrew Griffith says, I'm charging home for top 100, got 16-14. Wow, that's a huge score. Far out. That's a massive score to rank 141st overall. Is Edmonds down to Hickey worth it to use? No. I didn't even finish.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't. We know that Edmonds has the ceiling and Hickey has never had that ceiling before. So outside of playing up against Steph Wales last season, just chalk that up to a kind of rough second half for Edmonds. She had a -1 or something in the third quarter. She's still a very good ruck, and I think will still score all right. that's not the play.
Yeah, agreed. And I was going to say heads to anyone, but that I don't think that changes it anyway. Sneeko, this will be the final question we go here. So, Tom, I'll go to you for this one. Who goes first out of Ella Heads, Abby Dowrick, Georgie Prasparkas, Ali Morph, and Chloe Malloy? So I'll go sort of the two. So who goes first, Ella Heads or Abby Dowrick?
Oh,
Dowrick for me.
Yeah, I think Derek as well. I was thinking around that price range where Derek currently is, so just a lot better value.
Yeah.
And I'd probably be looking to trade Derek rather than going Heads because I think Heads is going to finish off this season strong.
Yeah.
I agree.
Georgie Prasparkas, I would not be trading, so I'm just going to move. I still think she's going to be very good to finish the season, so I'll probably just say no to her and just I'd be trading Derek over Prasparkas personally. Morfitt, I don't think we'd be trading out Morfitt. So it's pretty much comes down to Derek or Malloy. But who are you going at first? Is it still Derek?
Oh, I think Malloy's just such good value. You know, that like she has a fruitful role. It just hasn't been clicking. We've spoken about it a couple of times. She's been tagged, which is going to be expected. But I think it's Derek. If you're going to have to pick one or the other to trade out first, I think you trade out Derek and you get some better value within your midfield. Maybe someone like a Benici that we're talking about before. I think she's sitting pretty close to that sort of price range. Or, maybe even, I know you're big on Amy McDonald as well.
Yeah.
Could be someone like that, Bales.
Yeah, it could be an option. Liam, would you agree with that as well? Just to finish off, would you be going Derek out of all those options?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we know that the trap this year has been trying to flick around with D5 and not really getting anywhere in the rest of your team. And then Malloy, I know it's only 76 on the weekend, but that was the second highest score for Sydney. She was, centimetres away from another goal. I just really like her run for the rest of the year. And with that Western Bulldogs matchup this week, they have looked so insipid. I think she's in for just another 75 plus, good score, and don't screw around with it.
Yeah, I agree. And I know that captains will be talked about later in the week by yourself, but with the Dogs up next, I think a certain favourite of yours, Laura Gardner, could be a solid option.
Laura Gardner going to be high, and Charlie Rowbottom going to be firmly entrenched at the top.
Yeah, and I think this is probably a week where we're not going to be going Noffy with the Brisbane matchup and potential tag, and same with Garner with Melbourne. So it's going to be interesting with captains this week. And then the final comment was just from Cedric Wong. He said it was 55th, now 129th overall, thanks to having no Thomas, Roberts or Goldsworthy. We can see you ranked 129th still and didn't go down as much with no Thomas, Roberts and Goldsworthy. It's actually not too bad. Not having those three, well, if I didn't have those three, I'd probably drop 400 spots based on the rest of my team. But yeah, no, still high up there, Cedric, and hopefully you can get back inside the top 100 and get that hat. So beautiful. I think that's where we'll cut it for tonight, lads. It's been a long one, but I appreciate both of you for jumping on. Liam, mate, before I do the social stuff, have you had a thought of potential, any trades, mate? You don't have the exact ones, but have you looked at maybe any one you want to trade out, any moves you're looking at?
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to upgrade, really throw a whole lot of cash on top of Schultz. But then I don't think I've got any majorly weak links in my side. Like, my worst midfielder is McDonald, my worst defender is Heads, and my worst forward's Malloy. I've not got a problematic squad. I'm just going to have to spend a bit of time really thinking about who my weak links are and where I can get a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, perfect. Tom, any early thoughts on your moves in official, mate?
I'm actually in a pretty similar boat. I really like the look of my team and how I've built it.
That's nice to know.
There's nothing
that like looking at your team.
What are you? Are you a little bit indifferent? Are you?
Well, looking at 230s in his defence is probably not
his
mental health.
No.
Oh, mate. But yeah, it's always a pleasure, mate, to hop on with you, Bales. And Liam, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to hop on, mate. We always love having you on. It's always great to have a chat with you about footy.
No, mate, I always love the chance to comment when time avails because, I could talk about this stuff for days.
Yeah. And that's why we go for an hour and a half, because it was always great chatting about AFLW Fantasy. And I know if Tim was on here, Tim would be saying, no, we've got to keep it a little bit shorter, but that's all right. We're happy to go for as long as we can and chat plenty of things AFLW and AFLW Fantasy. But as Tom said, Liam, mate, thank you very much for jumping on with us once again. Where can the people find you on the socials, and where can people find the Free Kick Pod?
Yes, of course. So please just chuck me a follow on Twitter at Liam AFLW Fantasy, and make sure you're listening into the Free Kick Pod. You can follow us on Twitter or on Instagram at Free Kick W Pod, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Yep, sweet. And any Twitter Spaces coming up potentially this week, mate? Maybe a Thursday one?
Look, hopefully a Thursday one this week. Hopefully, the world isn't so busy for us, but it's, week-to-week prospect lives happen. It's a little bit easier to record a podcast versus a live one, but fingers crossed Thursday night we'll have an on-air episode again.
Yeah, looking forward to it, mate. Tom, mate, where can the people find you on the socials? Thanks once again for jumping on as a co-host, mate.
Cheers, brother. You can find me at Tommy GDS. I have a competition currently where you can guess my score. I'm going to give you a free GameDay Squad's player. And speaking of GameDay Squad, it's not too late to sign up and play. We do weekly competitions. www.gamedaysquad.com.au. Open your 30 free starter packs and start building your dream squad, ladies and gentlemen. And one little feature we have on the platform is that every week we give you 3 new cards. So even if you do think, hey, look, it's too late, how am I going to be competitive this year? If you just log in every week from now to next season, you're going to have hundreds upon hundreds of new cards in your team, and then I can guarantee you'll be building a really juicy, nice squad. So get amongst it. I know you all love it. You're here because of fantasy. And, mate, again, Bales, cheers for organising this, your time, and good luck, everyone.
Thanks, mate.
In your competitions this week and for all your trades,
Yeah, exactly right. Hopefully I can plug holes in my side. I think my trades I'm looking at, I think at this stage, I think Priest and Kenny are probably going to go. But again, who am I going to? I think Daisy Darcy's probably one. I don't know about the other defender. Do I go and get Geordie Allen as well and just save a fair bit of cash in defence and then use that on top of Abby Darrett? That's probably my early thoughts, but maybe I've got to hold Priest based on plenty of stuff going on, but then I could lose a lot of cash. So maybe it's just Kennedy, then a rookie maybe down, then go Abby Darrett up, but I'll be having a look at that anyway. But thank you everyone for tuning in. I don't know if there'll be a Friday pre-lockout chat necessarily. I'm up in Queensland for Dad's wedding from Thursday, so I'll have to see. I'll keep everyone updated in terms of if we'll do it or not, but hopefully we can, because I always like doing those before the games start, but I'll let people know. So, but no, thanks Liam, thanks Tom, thanks everyone for tuning in, and people that sent in their questions and everything. You can find me at BalesDT on Twitter, Instagram, trulybailshd on YouTube, and we'll catch you guys, if not on Friday, it will be on Sunday for yet another round review. So thanks everyone, have a good week. We'll catch you then. We're out. Cheers.
See you, legends.